First of all, thank you very much for coming. It's great to. It's the first time we're hosting in our place, so really appreciate you all coming there. Feel free to have it as a interactive session. Screen ఇక్కడ ఉందండి ఇటువైపు వస్తే కనిపిస్తుంది. Sorry. There are some people on Zoom as well. Some from Palmerston North, some from India.
Oh, Jay. Very nice.
First of all, I want to introduce Srinivas Prabhu and Saradia Mataji. And Saradia Mataji is our on Vyasasana today. We don't have Vyasasana here, but Mataji will do the discourse today. A little bit about Mataji. Mataji is in this path for last 21 years. And she got initiated 12 years ago in 2010 by His Grace Janananda Maharaj. His Holiness Pranam Bharat. And welcome Manish and all other devotees. Thank you very much for coming. So schedule for today is just we'll chant one round and then I will hand it out to Mataji and then we'll end with Narsinga Pranam and Prasad prayer. So pretty short, I would say. So shall we start with one round of chanting? Sure.
Take one at a time. Take one.
Kanvasu వినబడుతుందా?
వినబడుతుంది ప్రభుజీ.
Thank you. Your face. Everyone got paid. If anyone knew, just we are asking for mercy, Krishna's mercy to put into the devotional service. So we should have that mode and just hear what we chant. That's the main thing. You hear through your ears, and we'll do 108 rounds. We'll start with Panchtatra mantra, and just please make sure don't touch the floor. Don't use the Krishna bead as well. So we'll start after the Krishna bead. Then we will finish all the way through, and then we'll end with Krishna bead. When we have the Krishna bead, we will have to chant the Panchtatra mantra, and also we don't use the index finger.
Sri Krishna.
We'll start with Panchtattva mantra and start chanting.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare Rama Rama.
Okay, show you. Just before we start. Just want to ask one question before I hand it over to Mataji. How many of you have seen Mataji? He can be seen every Saturday at 12 p.m. around the Central Place, city center. How many years, Mataji, been?
2012, I think.
10 years now. So based on Her Guru Maharaj's instruction, Mataji and the family has been doing Harinam every Saturday. Only time they did not do is the COVID restriction time. So they've been trying very hard to spread the name, glories of the holy name. So hope, yeah, general public gets it, not this life, maybe in the next life. Yeah, with that, Mataji, please. So. I'll just get this one ready and. Yeah.
Thank you.
Where's the presentation button? This is the same as on the screen. Is it PowerPoint?
This is a Google slide.
Yeah. Usually there's a slideshow up the top.
Just F5.
F5.
Good one.
Extra right bottom.
This one?
I don't know. I'm just guessing here.
Can you click on this?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. No, this hides. It's fine.
Yeah.
This one, yeah, this one anyway. No idea. Can't find it.
Without
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
No, sorry, Mataji.
You're trying to open full screen.
Yes.
I have not tried.
This is browser. This is a different one. You don't have PPT, because it's done in the PPT one. And much faster like that. You can download this in the PPT format,
Okay.
and then you can open in the PowerPoint presentation.
Maybe show me currency.
Yeah, sure, one second. For command, you mean Control P or Windows P?
Windows P.
No. Command P is what? You mean function key? Point key maybe.
Top right corner, click slideshow. That's what it says.
Is it?
Yeah, but there's no slideshow button.
Sorry, where better?
Google Slides.
Usually there's a slideshow button when you present, but it's not
Oh,
there.
the-
Ah, it's
Yeah.
not there.
Yeah.
No, it's not there.
That's a bit of a weird
We
symbol.
can use the other computer. And
Okay.
we can use
Yeah,
this
yeah,
one as
yeah.
a to put it like a camera, if that makes sense. If
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah,
is-
yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Okay, just that they can't see the slides.
You can put it to the screen. Is that okay? Position.
I think it's
Control Shift F. Try that.
Control shift. Yeah. No.
No. Can you click here on the screen first? No.
Wait.
just-
Remote control labs.
This is for Zoom.
Ah,
This
it's
is
only
for
Zoom. Yeah, okay.
You click here, now Control Shift F, right? Mataji?
Yeah, that's what I did. Control shift.
Oh, you are in the Zoom. That's why.
Yeah.
Minimize the screen. Full screen and go
Oh,
back
okay.
to original presentation.
ఇదండి విండోస్ పెట్టిన
Yeah, that's where we are.
టచ్ స్క్రీన్ కూడా
See, it can't be this difficult, so maybe they don't have this option here when you're sharing.
or probably said
Sharing చేయండి. చేసేటప్పుడు Google లో,
Oh, I think you're not actually signed in to start off with, so you can't present it. It's just signed as an alarm.
okay.
So maybe if you sign in first, then I'll give you the options.
Okay, so
Oh, there we go. Yeah, slideshow button.
where is the search button?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that one there.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
We learned something new.
So I'll turn this way. So Manisha, just do the same like the other one. Jay Radha Madhavas? Okay. We'll sing Jay Radha Madhava first. Jay Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
And welcome to today's program. It's lovely to see all of you here. So our topic today is controlling sense gratification for success. That was a topic that Ram Prabhu had laid out. So thank you for that. So it's really lovely and encouraging to see all of you here, because on a Saturday night, people have lots of other activities that they want to be involved in. So here you are in engaging your mind and senses in a spiritual activity, whereas we find that the general mass, which we would say the materialists as such, are engaging their mind and senses in activities that would be a sharp contrast to what we are doing here today. Yeah. So the general principles that people out there would be involved in is, they would say, eat, drink, and be merry. Dine, wine, and dance. Live life to the fullest. Isn't that so? So everything there is about how can I enjoy my senses? How can I make myself feel better? But they're not looking at a higher purpose. That's what that's all about. Now, when I use the word materialist, who am I referring to? We'd like it to be interactive if possible. Otherwise, you get bored listening to my voice all the time. When I say materialist, who am I referring to?
No, attached to physical things.
That's right. Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Sorry, Bill. Every one of us. Oh, I don't know about that. We'll soon find out. Yes. So, yes, so a materialist is one who is very much in that bodily sense. They identify with the body, and the body also has the mind and the senses. Right. But we also got to be careful who we call a materialist. Right. So if we had to look at the picture up there, who is the materialist in that picture? It's a trick question. The one who is sitting down? Okay, who says the one who is sitting down? Hands up. Who says the one who is standing up? Who says both?
Isn't that not even an option? Because they can't both, because you said which one.
Oh, you're right. Aren't you intelligent? That's a very good point. Isn't he clever? Eh? Yeah, okay. So I should have phrased my question differently. Yeah? Okay. So this picture here is relating to a story of, we have the Gadadhar Pandit, who was standing up, and Vidyanidhi, Pundarika Vidyanidhi, is the one who was sitting down, right? So what had happened was, one day, Mukunda Dutt had told Gadadhar Pandit that there is a great Vaishnava that has come, and I want you to come and visit him. Come and see him. And we all know when there's a great Vaishnava, we all want to go and take their darshan, isn't that so? So here was Gadadhar Pandit, who is very pure. He is in control of his mind and senses. And he went to see Pundarika Vidyanidhi. But when he went there, he was quite shocked. He was actually a bit disappointed, because when you see a Vaishnava, you're expecting them to be like in the sannyas clothes and, really simple. But he says, how can he be a great Vaishnava? I mean, look at him. He's sitting there all comfortably. He's surrounded by pleasures. He's in good clothes. He's got jewelry. How can he be a Vaishnava? So Mukunda Dutt had realized what Gadadhar Pandit was thinking, because he could see that from his face. They say our face is the index of the mind. It tells us what we're thinking about. So Mukunda Dutt had then recited 2 shlokas relating to the glories of Krishna. The shlok that he was relating to was when Putna had fed the poisonous milk to Krishna, right? Krishna had drunk that milk, knowing very well that it was poisonous. But then what status did he give Putna? Made her mother, so she became the nursemaid. Imagine that. So when Pundarika Vidyanidhi, when Gadadhar Pandit had seen what Pundarika Vidyanidhi was doing, because when Pundarika Vidyanidhi heard this, he just went in total ecstasy, right? He had, all the goosebumps. He was perspiring, tearing. He just collapsed, he fainted. So there is then that Gadadhar Pandit realized that this is a great Vaishnava. He is such a great Vaishnava. And within himself, he realized, I created such a great offense. And in order to reciprocate, he accepted Pundariki Vidyanidhi as his guru. So we got to be careful who we see as guru, or as a materialist and a non-materialist or a transcendentalist. Because what we see externally is not necessarily what is happening internally. Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita in 3.6, one who restrains the senses and organs of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself. And it's called a pretender. So very simply, one may present themselves in the garb of a transcendentalist or a Vaishnava, but the mind and the senses may not be in that control. Right? So we're looking at internally what is going on. Srila Prabhupada says, conditioned people have imperfect senses, so they cannot see things as they are. So we know that our senses are imperfect. Some of us are getting older. And I can speak for myself here, and I know my eyesight is deteriorating like crazy. I know I got to go to the optometrist soon, right? And we know that our hearing deteriorates as well. Our senses on the whole are not perfect. We cannot rely on our senses. In the Bhagavad Gita in 2:44, it is said, Bhogashvarya prasaktanam taya parita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadona vidiyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So you can see how that materialism, that opulence, becomes a barrier for them to actually progress spiritually, which is so unfortunate, isn't that so? Because one doesn't need to be that way. So now this takes us to a shlok in Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll just do a few invocation prayers just to invoke auspiciousness. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastabhutale Srimati Janananda Goswami Iti Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastabhutale Srimata Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtadade Shatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakti Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Shamo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So relating to the mind and senses, we're going to have a look at a shlok from Srimad Bhagavatam 5.1.17. Vayam pramattasya vanasevapi sayat yata saaste sahasat sapatna jitendriyasyatma rate budhasya grihasrama kyemnu karoti avadyam. Just to save time. Oh, first I'd let, if anyone wants to recite, please go ahead. Would anyone like to recite the shlok? We can move on to the synonyms. We can all recite together. Bhayam, fear.
Bhayam, fear.
Pramattasya, of one who is bewildered.
Fear, one who is bewildered.
Vanesu, in forests.
Vanesu, in forest.
Api, even.
Api, even.
Sayat, they must be.
Sayat, there must be.
Yata, because.
Yata, because.
Saha, he,
Saha, he,
one who is not self-controlled.
one who is not self-controlled.
Aste is existing.
Asay is existing.
Saha, with.
Saha, with.
Sat, sapatnaha, 6 co-wives.
6 crore.
Jita indriyasya, for one who has already conquered the senses.
The one who has already conquered the senses.
Atma rati, self-satisfied.
Self-satisfied.
Budhasya,
Budhasya,
for such a learned man.
for such a learned man.
Griha ashramaha,
Griha ashramaha,
household life.
household life.
Kim, what?
Kim, what?
Nu, indeed.
No, indeed.
Karoti, can do.
Karati, can do.
Avadyam, harm. Thank you. So I will read the purport. Oh, maybe someone can read the purport. Would anyone volunteer?
Narottama Das Thakur has sung Grehe Vanate Thake, He Goranga Bale Dake. Whether one is situated in the forest or at home, he is engaged in the devotional service of Lord Chaitanya. He is liberated person. Here, this is also repeated. For one who is not controlled his senses, going to the forest to become so-called yogi is meaningless, because his uncontrolled mind and senses are going with him. He cannot achieve anything, even if he is giving up household life and staying in the forest. Formerly, many mercantile men from the upcountry of India used to go to Bengal. And thus, there is a familiar saying, if you're going to Bengal, your fortune will go with you. Our first concern, therefore, should be to control the senses. And since the senses cannot be controlled unless engaged in devotional service to the Lord, our most important duty is to engage in the sense in devotional service. Rishikesha Sevam Bhakti Uchyate. Bhakti means engagement. of this engagement of the purified senses in the service of the Lord. Herein, Lord Brahma indicates that instead of going to the forest with uncontrolled senses, it is better for one more secure to engage the sense in the service of the Lord. Even household life can do not harm to the self-uncontrolled person acting in this way. It cannot force him into material bondage. The Rupa Goswami has further enunciated this position. I just read the translation.
Okay.
Regardless of one's circumstances, if one fully engages activities, mind and word in the devotional service of the Lord, he should be understood to be a liberated person. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a responsible officer and a householder, yet his service to the cause of expanding the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is unique. Srila Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur says, no, this one is a bit difficult. Mataji, if you can please help me on this one.
Durdan Tentriyakala Sarpa Patali Prokata Damstrayate.
The sense organs are certainly our greatest enemy, and they are therefore compared to the venomous serpent. However, if a venomous serpent is bereft of his poison fang, it is no longer fearful. Similarly, if the senses are engaged in the service of Lord, there is no need to the fear of their activity. The devotees in the Krishna conscious movement move within the material world, but because their senses are fully engaged in the service of Lord, they are always aloof from the material world. They are always living in transcendental position.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Okay, very good. So we learn from that shlok the importance of controlling the mind and the senses. We find that if we look at a human being and an animal, we are all engaged in the same basic activities, which are eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. Isn't that so? So in that category, we are pretty much like an animal. Doesn't sound good. Srila Prabhupada explains how we are like two-legged animals, or we're just a polished animal society. So when we are engaging our senses like the way the materialist is, then this is the category we're going to fall in. You'd find that you'll see in the picture how, we may sit at a table and eat all opulent food, but the cats and the dogs are eating from the floor. And when it comes to sleeping, we may have a lovely bed to sleep on, but the animal is sleeping on the floor. And in terms of defending, it means having our alarm systems, our burglar guards, gates, or, guns, all of those kind of things. We are defending, and an animal is defending with their teeth and their claws. But at the end of the day, we are all defending. It's that category. And then there's the last category of mating. So what makes us different is that we can make a change. We can use our senses and our mind for a higher purpose. And this is what we're going to get deeper into now. So we speak about our civilization or society getting so advanced. And I've used this example before where we've had the COVID that had come in. And with all the advance in technology and on the medical side, nobody could save people. Millions and millions of people have died because of that. And all we have is this tiny virus, which we can't even see, that caused so much of havoc, so much of chaos, so much of sadness. Yeah. So when you look at people in general, what happens is they have lots of double standards. You see it in this picture where you've got this man with a knife in his hand, ready to slaughter all the animals on one side, but on the other side, he's petting his cat. How often do we see this, where people keep their pets so nicely? And just recently, I heard there's a daycare for dogs as well. You know how we have daycare for children? There's a daycare for dogs. Apparently, they pay. Yes, hello.
And also in like shops, for some reason, they started making these stuff outside that has like events and stuff for dogs and cats.
Oh, wow. So they're taking good care of them, isn't that so? Does that shop sell meat though?
I think so.
So you see those double standards?
Yes.
Please come in.
It's like they're protecting something on one hand and then on the other they can't.
That's right. So
Like they're doing the opposite.
that is right. Yes. Please come in. Mataji. Let's make place for Mataji. So in terms of the double standards, it's taking care on one side, but not recognizing that the other animals are just the same. Animals do have feelings. Animals do have love. We see how the mother animals take so good care of their babies, sometimes even better than what humans at the moment are doing with their children. So from the shlok we have just read, it says the sense organs are certainly our greatest enemies, and they are therefore compared to venomous serpents. So we know a venomous serpent is uncontrollable. But if you look at a snake charmer is so talented, he is able to control that serpent, isn't that so? So similarly, we need to look at how can we control our senses? Now, I'm saying here, we should watch how we use our senses. But at the same time, we need to realize we have these senses. How can we use them properly? We need to give it an alternative. So basically, if you look like, if a child has a knife in his hand, if a child is playing with a knife, what will a mother do? We got lots of mothers here. What will you do if your child is playing with a knife? That is such a clever answer. Thank you. Exactly that. So you will take the knife away from the child because you want your child to be safe, and then replace it with a toy or replace it with something safe that the child can play with. So similarly, we need to use our senses in such a way that we get rid of the activities that cause harm to our spiritual lives and engage ourselves in activities that are going to improve our spiritual lives. So this is the same thing about the snake charmer, right? When the venomous serpent doesn't have his fangs, when the fangs are gone, then it cannot hurt anybody. It's totally under the control, like here, of the snake charmer as such, isn't that so? They say the devotees in Krishna consciousness, they move within this material world. That means being exposed to everything that is materialistic. But because their senses are fully engaged in the service of the Lord, they're always aloof from the material world. So it's a matter of being in this world, but not engaging in what is going on. Keeping ourselves aloof from it is what's important. So they're always living in a transcendental position. Now we're going to move on to something interesting, right? We're going to still stick with the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we're going to look at sense gratification being not a source of happiness, but we're going to look at 4 living entities. One is the moth. 2, we're going to look at the deer, the elephant, and the fish. So the Dattatreya Bhagavan, so we had where the Avadut Brahmin had asked, how is it that you are so peaceful? He was asked by Yadu Maharaj. Isn't that so? Yadu Maharaj had asked the Avadut Brahmin. And so he explained, so we're going to use and see how these gurus are going to help us in our lives, right? So the first one is the moth. Now we all know with the moth, when there's fire, what does it do?
Come and jump into
That's right. And what happens to it?
it.
It ends its life, right? So the moth is attracted to the beautiful form of the flame. It gets into it. And that's the end of its life, right? Similarly in life, a lady has a very beautiful form, right? A lady has the power to attract man because of the way she dresses, the way she smiles, the way she moves. Am I right or wrong? Agree? Right? Ladies have that power, okay? Of course, not everyone is using that power, but we find in the general world, this is what is happening. So I speak about man being attracted to a lady, but we know that there's attraction of lady to man as well. So we have being attracted to the beautiful form of the lady, but we find that that can eventually lead to problems because they are not looking at the inner qualities or the actual deeper or inner beauty of the lady. Yeah. You'd find what we see nowadays as just external. Very often in Hollywood and Bollywood movies, we look at actors and actresses and we think, oh, how beautiful or handsome they look, not realizing how much of cosmetic surgery they've had and how much of cosmetics are on them as well. That industry is growing so much. This, I'm sorry, I don't know her name, but I just know she's an actor. Who knows her name? Okay, she's meant to be a famous actor. But in that picture at the bottom, you would see her as she naturally is. And then with makeup and cosmetic surgery, you can see the way she is. It says the total global beauty industry in 2020 spent $483 billion. Big spending. And the annual total is expected to top $716 billion in 2025. Crazy amounts, but that's the way the world is going, isn't that so? So business people are really getting into it. I know of doctors that are now changing their business a little bit, looking at cosmetic stuff, looking at how we can get lighter in complexion, looking at how to fill up all the areas, so like Botox and so on. So even the medical side is changing a little bit. Liquid beauty. Who knows the story about liquid beauty? So there was once a very beautiful princess, right? And a prince had come to her, and he was really attracted to her beautiful form. And here again, not looking at the wonderful person she really was, the good qualities, her good personality, her characteristics. But all that he was interested in was her beautiful form. She was not interested in him. So she told him, come back in 10 days and I will show you my beauty. So in the meantime, what she had done was she took very strong medication. This is going to sound a bit yuck, so excuse me. She vomited and she had diarrhea. But she took all of that and she collected it in containers, right? So after 10 days, the prince had come really happy because now he's going to take this princess away. And she opened the door and he says, I've come for my beautiful princess. Where is she? And she says, I am that princess. And then he said, that can't be because you are so ugly. Where's the beauty? And she says, come with me. And she showed him the vomit and the diarrhea. And she told him, this is the liquid beauty. All she was trying to show him is what people are attracted to, the skin disease, it is called, right? So she's trying to show him that that is just externals. I just suddenly think when I was in standard 5, that's year 7, and my English and form teacher was a Hare Krishna devotee. I was very lucky to have had his association. And I can remember him telling the boys in the class, he said, all the boys, I have a message for you. Don't be attracted to the beautiful form of a lady, because after she has her baby, her form is going to change. You know, because after babies, we all know we put on that weight. We no longer like what we were before marriage. So I can still remember. I just suddenly thought about him. Okay. So if we had to look at Shastic examples, we have Ajmer, and Ajmer had seen a Sudra and Sudrani embracing. And he was so, does everyone know that story? About Ajmer? Yeah, Ajmer. So what had happened was when he had seen that, his consciousness had changed. He had a very pious family. He left his pious family and he got a prostitute. And he started getting engaged in sinful activities. All of this had happened simply because of sight, what he had seen. Another example is Shobari Muni. He was in the water in deep meditation. Imagine, he thought he would escape everything on land, so he would go in the water. And here he was in deep meditation. Then he opened his eyes only to see fish mating. And that changed his consciousness. And he wanted to have a wife. Do we all know what happened after that? I'll go on a little bit more. So he left, he went out of the water, and he's out there looking for a wife now. So he went to King Mandata and he asked King Mandata for a daughter. And King Mandata had 50 daughters. And he said, my daughters are free to choose their own husband. So you can ask for their hand in marriage. But none of the 50 girls wanted him. Because, I mean, look at him. He's been in the water for so long. He was all shriveled. He wasn't at all attractive. So he realized this and he used his yogic powers and he made himself so attractive that the 50 daughters were all attracted to him. So here he was now, one man and 50 wives. But of course, as the story goes on, he realized that what he was doing was just sense gratification. And he then took back to his spiritual life. Okay, so here again, it was just looking at the fish, and that changed his whole life. It broke his spiritual life. It put a break in his spiritual life. Okay, when our eyes are not used for spiritual activities, in the Bhagavatam it is explained that they are no better than the plumes of the peacock feather. So if you look at it, can you see all the eyes on the peacock feather? In other words, saying that our eyes are not as valuable because they're not being used for the right things. If we think about it now, generally I'm talking about people are so much into movies and games and what else? Give me examples. There's so much out there. We all know that, isn't that so? And they can be so attractive, but we've got to keep our eyes away from that.
I had a man who came yesterday on Friday.
Yeah.
And he basically was using one of the visual games that you put it on your eyes.
Yes.
And he got so carried away that in one scene, he was like diving into the water and he dove into the book cabinet and basically cracked his head open, broke his nose, and he came in with all the new injuries that he never had before, just from participating. And he was like 60 years old. So the first time he did that. He thought it was a good idea to try.
Oh. So look at that at 60 years and how he chooses to use his eyes, you know, so tells a lot, tells a lot. So we don't want to burn in that fire of beauty like how the moth does. How can we use our eyes? So this is open to all of you now. How can we use our eyes? Remember how we don't want to be like the child with the knife. We want to be like the child with the toy, using our senses for the betterment of things. Any examples? You all know this, you're all doing it. Please tell me. To read, yes, you can read, you use your eyes. What are you reading though? Shastra, nice, thank you, that's lovely. And what else? What else can we use our eyes for?
Looking at the form of the Lord.
Looking at the form of the Lord, that's beautiful, yes, yes. So trying to see the Lord, trying to see Krishna everywhere, you know? If we look around, you know, you see a plant, you can think of Krishna because everything is Krishna's energy. When we drink water, we think of Krishna, right? So that is trying to use our eyes nicely. Anything we see, we relate it to Krishna because ultimately everything is Krishna's energy. So that's how we can use our eyes. Don't burn in the fire of beauty. Okay, so that was our first guru, the moth. Now our second guru is actually the honeybee. The honeybee, we know, goes from flower to flower. Isn't that so? It's taking its nectar and it moves on and it moves on. If the honeybee chooses to stay in the flower, what happens? What happens to the lotus flower when the honeybee stays in it? It closes. Very nice, very nice. And then it gets killed. Right. So what is the honeybee teaching us? The honeybee teaches us that if we over endeavor, right? So if the honeybee stays there and it says, I just want to carry on taking this nectar, right? It is over endeavoring, it's overeating. We learn from the nectar of instruction in the second verse, Atyahara is the principle of over endeavoring, overeating, overdoing it pretty much. Do we need to do so much? Do we need to live in such extravagance? Or can we use our time differently to improve our spiritual lives? Right, using our energy differently, using our money differently. So Srila Prabhupada sets out the principle of simple living and high thinking. So it's a matter of getting what we actually need in life and not looking at what we want in life. This is something we had to teach our children as well, because, you know, children are exposed to a lot when they go to school, isn't that so? And name brands are a big thing. So now our children have learned that, you know, do I need it or do I want it? And that's really important. Even, you know, I will look at it that way as well. So trying to get that simple living and and higher thinking, that's it. Like I met an old lady, she is, I think she's 89 or 90 years old. And she knows that her days are coming to an end now. And she's trying to declutter her house. And she's trying to get all her paperwork down so that it'll be easier for her family when she does leave her body. But she can't do it nicely now because she's so old. So she is paying people to come to declutter her house and to sort her paperwork out. But if we start practicing it from now, hopefully we wouldn't be like her, being in like, oh my goodness, what do I do now? How do I get rid of all of this? Maybe if we start practicing from now, when we reach that stage, we can use our time differently for what it is really meant for. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada in a lecture in Rome said, don't be after these motor cars, television, and nonsense things, sporting, wine, women. Don't be after these. Simply eat sufficiently, keep your health nicely, chant Hare Krishna, realize Krishna, and go back to home. This is our philosophy. So that's keeping that simple living, high thinking. Yeah. Okay, so the other thing about what the honeybee teaches us, you see how the honeybee goes from flower to flower, taking just what it needs and then it moves on, isn't that so? So we learned that, which is good about the overeating and over-endeavoring. The other thing is, it just takes the essence. It just takes what it needs, right? This is related to our Shastras, right? You'd find that there is a lot to read out there. And the more we read about, you know, different things which are not really bona fide, it's going to confuse us. It's going to put us in a different state of mind. And we don't want to be in a state of confusion. We want to read Shastras, which we know are bona fide, right? And also reading what we know has been translated in such a way that we are reading it as it is, that it hasn't been concocted or changed along the way. So that is why it is so important for us to read the Bhagavad Gita as it is, to read the Srimad Bhagavatam, because all the knowledge is there. These are ancient Vedic wisdom. It's come from time immemorial, and it's been handed down in the disciplic succession. All the acharyas have very nicely given it to us. All we have to do is imbibe this knowledge. I'll tell you another story. There's another old man. I meet a lot of old people in my life. There's a lot to learn from them, right? So he is 90 years old. He's about 89, 90 as well. A very, very intelligent man. You know, even at that age, he is writing a book on quantum physics. So I asked him, what are you trying to prove? You know, he's writing this book now for about over 20 years. And he says he is trying to show people that there are different dimensions in this world. And he's trying to show people that, you know, what happens to the soul afterwards. He himself, he doesn't know the answer. I said, why don't you just turn to the Shastra? Everything is there. The answers are there. Why are you wasting your time? I didn't tell him, why are you wasting your time? But I directed him to the Shastras, and he said, I'm so old now. I've read so many books. I don't think I can read anymore. But he's lost the real essence. He's wasted his time. He's tried to reinvent the wheel. It's already there. Just accept it. That's all. It's so simple. It's just that sometimes people find it hard to accept because it doesn't quite fit with how they want to live their lives. But our acharyas are telling us, all we got to do is accept. Okay, so this is where, what are your lessons, or what do you learn from the honeybee? Would anyone like to share that? You can just repeat what's been said or anything. Hello, thank you.
Like if you like overdo stuff, like overeat and
Yes,
stuff, like how the honeybee, like how you said, if it stays in the flower too much, it basically kills itself.
that's right. Thank you so much for that. That's nicely said. Yes. So yes, overeating can cause a lot of problems for us too, even though we like to eat, isn't it? Yes, thank you for that. That's lovely. Anybody else would like to share?
Get the essence out.
Sorry, Mataji.
Get the essence out and
Yes, get the essence.
Accept.
So that's right. Very nice. Thank you for that. Yes. Okay, anybody else want to say anything? Thank you so much for that. Please. Don't get too entangled in the material world. Yes, we can so easily get entangled. It's very, very easy to get entangled in the material world because we know, if you look at the media, it's constantly bombarding us. Walk like this, talk like this, dress like this. Isn't that so? We look at all the adverts. It tells us how we should look, what we should eat, where we should eat. But if we just totally conform to that, we're just heading for total disaster. We're looking at, like how Prabhu had said, getting more entangled in this material world. And then that cycle of birth and death is just not going to end. This lifetime is to try and make it our last lifetime here so that we can go back home. We can go back to Godhead. That's what the important thing is. Okay. We're now going to move on to our next guru. So who's our next guru? The elephant. So what I'm telling you is what's in Shastra itself. This is all from Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So we find that now we're going to look at the sense, we're going to look at touch. When somebody wants to capture an elephant, what they tend to do is they put a female elephant on one side, but they put a big pit and they cover it with grass. So then the elephant, the male elephant goes, woohoo, female ahead. He runs, falls into that pit. Now he is trapped, right? And then what they tend to do is they keep the elephant there. Okay.
We need confirmation from them or something because we
I think that would be, the camera is in the top, so.
yeah, it is tilted down a bit as well. That's okay. Okay, I can see it now.
So yes, the elephant is in the pit and he's getting weaker. Now think about this. There's this powerful elephant.
Gajendra.
Gajendra. Haribol, you're a good devotee, aren't you? Look at him. Straight away, he's thinking of a powerful elephant, Gajendra, when he hears the name of an elephant. Lovely. I'm not talking about Gajendra just yet, though, right? But here we have this powerful elephant. He can move logs. He can break through branches as he's going through. But now, because of his desire to want to touch, he's in a pit, getting weakened without any food. And then what they tend to do, the people who capture him will take him and then they are under his control. He's going to have to do what they want him to do. So that is rather unfortunate for the elephant. So how can we learn? How do we use our sense of touch? How do we use our sense of touch?
Bathing deities.
Bathing the deities, very good. Aren't you a great Vaishnava? Yes, bathing the deities. Sorry, say again. Dressing the deities. sorry, garlands, making garlands for the deities. Very nice. They're from the same family. You can see that. Very nice. Yes. Sorry? Chanting. Yes. So you all have chanted so nicely. That's one way. One of your senses there that's getting engaged is a sense of touch. You got your touch, your hearing as well. So chanting is very, very good in that way, in that it's engaging our senses. Right. So we can see how we can use our sense of touch for the service of the Lord. Yeah. Now we're moving on to our next guru, the Diya. And the Diya is going to teach us about hearing. Right? The Diya is such that when it listens to sweet sounds, it is very attracted to it. And that's how a lot of them get captured. Right? So here again, it's leading to their detriment, which isn't so nice, isn't it? So if we had to look at some Shastric examples, we know we've got Vishwamrit Muni. He was doing very, very severe penances. He was in deep meditation. We all know the story, right? We know. If somebody wants to share anything? Anyone want to say anything about him? What happened to him? Menaka. So what did he do? He heard her ankle bells. And then his whole consciousness had become disturbed. It broke his meditation. All he did was he heard, right? His senses were so engaged in meditation, but his one sense of hearing let him down. How unfortunate, isn't it? Yeah. So that is why it's said that we don't have to withdraw our senses to such an extent that we do nothing. We are still using our senses. Remember how we said, think again about the child with the knife. We are just using our senses for a higher purpose. And then we have another example, which is who, Monish?
Rishi Shringa.
Rishi Shringa, right? So you would all know about him as well. So he comes from a Brahmin family, and his father kept him very sheltered. His father didn't want him to be exposed to the world and all the materialism in it. So keeping him in such a way, he had no idea what a lady looked like. But now there was a problem in the village. There was a drought. And the only way that could be reversed was if a Brahmin stepped on their land. So the people of the village asked for him to come onto their land. But of course, the father wouldn't let that happen. So what happened then? What happened then? They sent the ladies to him, isn't that so? So here he was looking at the ladies, being totally bewildered by, like, who are these people? I haven't seen them. So when he had seen them and he had heard them talk, his qualities as well had changed. Look how pure he was. But look what happened to him. Right? So we can see this in Shastric examples, what's happening. Great personalities. So what becomes of us? Yeah. Okay, so from the hearing side of things, what do we learn? I'll go on. I've got some more slides. Okay, yes, please go ahead.
Sorry, we should, instead of learning all those concepts and all that, we should rather hear Kirtan.
Yes.
Lectures, so many symbols, lectures.
Yes, that is true. So hearing from the great Vaishnavas, so many acharyas, so many gurus talking, using our sense to hear Kirtan, to hear the spiritual sounds, the transcendental vibrations. It's all good, letting go.
But isn't like chanting true, because you hear your chanting and you also say it.
That is perfect.
And you also touch the beat.
Absolutely. So that is such a great activity.
3 in 1.
Too good. That's just the way it is. So it's so it's a whole package deal there, isn't it? We're getting so much a benefit from just chanting because we are hearing. Well done. Thank you for that. Okay. So I find in Srimad Bhagavatam in 2.1.2, it condemns the hearing of mundane topics devoid of spiritual value. So who would like to read that? Can someone read that, please?
Those persons who are material engrossed, being blind to the knowledge of ultimate truth, have many subject matters for hearing in human society. O Emperor, and commenting on the Srila Prabhupada writes, there has many subjects matters for hearing, political science, scientific, social, and economic, and so on. But due to a poor fund of knowledge, they set aside the questions of the ultimate miseries of life, namely miseries of birth and death, old age and disease.
Very nice. Thank you for that. So we can see how mundane topics, all available to us, magazines, newspapers, TV, so much media now that one can access on the phone and so on. But what are they doing? They're just keeping us engrossed in this materialism, right? And it's not addressing the real problems that we have, the real disease that we're going through, the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease. So it is said that we have 2 ears and we have 1 mouth, right? These ears take in a lot of things, isn't that so? So much it can hear, but this mouth can be controlled. We can keep it closed, isn't that so? Yeah? So the ways in which we perform hearing, one is Nam Shravan, hearing the holy name. Then we have Charita Shravan, hearing about the pastimes of the Lord. Gunadi Shravan, hearing about the qualities, etc. of Lord Krishna. So here again, it goes to like what you were saying, hearing from elevated personalities, hearing and reading Shastras. That's all important. So why do we have to hear? Can someone read that, please?
Prabhupada, right. The first and the foremost of such devotional engagement is hearing about Krishna. This is very powerful transcendental method of purifying the mind of all misgivings. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. Bhagavad Gita 6:35.
Okay, so what it does is it gets rid of all that unwanted desires that we have. You know, if you think of a cup with dirty water, if we want to get rid of it, we can pour the clean water and eventually all the dirty water is going to go, isn't that so? So similarly, if we take in all these transcendental sounds, it's going to help with our purification. So beware, everything that goes and stays, right? We're forming all these samskaras, right? It's the mantra effect. Be careful who or what you listen to. Mantra from Ramayana. So we got to be careful what we listen to. So no gram kata, basically. It's nonsense. It's a waste of life. It's a waste of life. Waste of our time. Life is too short. Okay, hearing, spiritual sound is so powerful that one doesn't even have to comprehend its meaning to benefit from hearing it. When one links his ears to giving oral reception to the transcendental vibrations, Srila Prabhupada writes, he can quickly become purified and cleansed in the heart. Hearing in Bhakti Yoga is so simple that anyone can take part. Even a child can take part, Prabhupada observes. Even a dog can take part. So are you all aware of Harinam? Like going out on the streets and singing? Yeah. So a lot of people hearing there have never heard the Hare Krishna mantra, isn't that so? But they respond. Some people actually tear, some people laugh, some people dance, some people clap. And they say, I don't know why I'm doing this. But what they don't realize is what they're hearing is a transcendental sound. This is a spiritual sound coming from the spiritual world. It's not a mundane sound. Today we had a lady who did quite an interesting dance, a very Western dance. And I thought, oh, but let me just, go and ask her if she'd like some books. And she took 3 books. She took 3 Hare Krishna books. And she was really lovely. So, you know, the lessons are we don't judge people. You know, like the first one, who's a materialist and who's not a materialist. Sometimes people behave in some ways, but what's happening on the inside, we don't know. So yeah, that was amazing amazing thing that she did today. Okay, we're moving on to the next guru now, who is the fish, right? So we know this fish is so attracted to that bait, but what's with the bait?
Hook.
The hook. Oh, computer's dying here. Thank you.
They're leading it to death.
Pardon?
That's leading it to death.
It's leading it to death, because as soon as that fish gets hooked, it's going to become a meal for somebody, isn't that so? Right. And that's the world we're living in, where there is mass fishing and so on going on. But let's learn about this fish. It's because of that taste that it gets caught, isn't that so? So we find that as we were speaking earlier, you know, how we are being told where to go and eat and what to eat. And if you look at food now, we know the price of food is increasing, and you find takeaways are advertising for like $5 burgers and so on. And people are being attracted to that sort of food. It's that sense of taste that is taking them there, thinking that they're going to get yummy food for less money. Now, how do we control our sense of taste? You're all doing it. Prasadam, yes, lots and lots. You can eat as much as you want. Don't overeat though, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in that.
Yes. Right. So eating prasadam, because we know that once we have prasadam, that's the mercy of the Lord. Yeah. So we have prasadam. It helps for our spiritualization, helps for our purification.
I watched this video and it said that some Krishna conscious people even say that our culture is like, people know it for like a vegetarian like food.
Yeah.
And some people say that we eat our way to Godhead.
Wow. Yes. It's like last night we were at a program at the Mantra Lounge, and His Holiness Devamrit Swami was saying that sometimes people say, whoa, this food, because you get Westerners coming and eating it. So they just go, this food is so good. I think the Hare Krishna mantra is in it. So even they are identifying that this food is so spiritualized, isn't that so? So we say a prasadam prayer before we eat, right? Sharira Vidyaja. Oh, brothers, this material body is a network of ignorance, and the senses are one's deadly enemies, for they throw the soul into the ocean of material sense enjoyment. Among the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and verily wicked. It is very difficult to conquer the tongue in this world. Oh, brothers, Lord Krishna is very merciful. Just to control the tongue, he has given us the remnants of his own food. Now please eat these nectarian grains while singing the glories of their lordships, Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, and in love call out, Chaitanya Nitai. So it's just showing us there how we can control our tongue simply by eating prasadam. So any questions so far? Or would anyone like to add anything so far? Okay, so we'll move on. So we look at material pleasures where at the beginning, it seems like this is going to be great, so much of enjoyment. But from the Bhagavad Gita, we learn that at the beginning, these activities are like nectar. But with time, these activities are like poison, because it's just putting us further and further into this cycle of life and death, right? Birth and death. So even from Bhagavad Gita in 522, it says, an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end. So the wise man does not delight in them. Right, so it's got a beginning and it's got an end. That means it's temporary. It's going to end. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita 2:61. And we learn from Srimad Bhagavatam 5:117 in the purport we had read earlier. Our first concern, therefore, should be to control the senses. And since the senses cannot be controlled unless engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, our most important duty is to engage the senses in devotional service. Rishikena Rishikesha Stepanam Bhakti Uchyate. Bhakti means engagement in the purified senses in the service of the Lord. Right, so we go back to the child in the night with the knife. We all have our senses. We can use it in a dangerous way that's going to keep us entangled in the material world, or we can use it for a higher purpose. Param Drisva Nirvartate. Using it to get the higher taste. That is what we're looking for. So this higher taste, the embodied soul, may be restricted from sense enjoyment through the taste for sense, but though the taste of sense objects remains, but seizing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a very, very merciful incarnation of Lord Krishna. He came. Oh, you don't know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the incarnation of Lord Krishna. He came 500 years ago in the form of a devotee. So he came as the hidden incarnation to teach us how we should be engaging ourselves, how we should be a devotee. So it is said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu put the wreath of the holy name around this material world. Now, a wreath we know is usually put on graveyards, isn't that? So when someone dies, they put a wreath. This material world is our prison house. But he very mercifully put this wreath around there of the holy name, giving us the holy name, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. The holy name helps to purify our mind, and our mind is responsible for controlling our senses. So we need to be careful how we use our mind and our senses. Yeah. So chant Hare Krishna and be happy. It's a cute child. Yeah. And I think with that one, we're pretty much in. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. Hare Krishna. Any questions?
Not a question, but like an example.
Please share that example.
So like how you said like to not be like entangled, it could be like food, like when you buy it, when you get born,
Yes.
you come with a food, and if you like mess around and stuff, it gets expired. And you're trying to not make it get expired.
Yes,
So like if you do too much material things, it will get expired.
that's right. Very nice. So we're learning here from our young devotee that everything in this material world is temporary. It's going to come to an end. So why should we spend so much of time, so much of energy and effort getting those temporary material things when we can spend the same trying to develop our spiritual lives, which I know you're all doing so nicely anyway. Yeah, thank you for that.
Also, like there's a Prabhuji called Gaur Gopal Das, and he said one of his friends, family's person, he's like kept on eating too much, like gained a lot of weight, and then Gopal Das said, "Oh, why are you doing this?" And he said that anyway, everything will come to an end. So what's the point?
So we still need to control ourselves, because controlling our eating means we're getting more control of our mind and our senses. That's what we're trying to achieve. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Any comments, questions, realizations, anything you'd like to share? I'd love to hear from you as well.
I would like to share about the birth in depth.
Please
I'm
do.
listening to the lecture this afternoon,
Mm.
and it says, if our life is like going inside the
The Ferris wheel?
yeah.
Yes.
So I was hearing one of the lectures. So we asked me to speak a bit as I'm repeating it today.
They just
So
took- yeah, yeah.
So probably I was listening to one of the lectures, and it says, have you been to London where it's like a giant wheel, you know, it's called as London's Eye. And if you've gone in one of the cubicles, you have to go round and come back again, same point. But if you didn't come out of that right time when the gate opens, what are going to happen? You're going to go back again, the whole thing again, right? You have to come back again. That's what a life is. If we have got this human form of life, this is the only form where we can go back to Godhead. If we didn't, we have to go back again to the whole 84 lakh species. Come to the point again, we will get a human form. Need to come. There's one chance of 1 billion, maybe. Lotto is much easier to win rather than getting a human form of life. This human form of life is very, very rare. So was this that's open, you know, one
Yes.
example.
Don't want to go on that wheel.
Don't want to go on that wheel, yes. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Prabhu. So that's nice. Yeah.
Was clear. Any doubt?
Thank you all for listening so attentively. Thank you for your kind attention. I know you're all knowledgeable. Thank you for allowing me to be of some service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
If anyone is interested in books, I can never end without saying something about books. Okay, so if anyone's interested in books, if you want any books, we're doing little stack packs as well. You know, they're cheap, $10, $20. You get about 3 books in it. We've got Bhagavad Gita. Let me know, please. I've got a box of books, so they always travel with me. So you too. So if you need any books, please come and see. Thank you very much, everyone. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
I think, should we chant loudly for Mataji for her
Yes.
divine advice? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare.
I think next is yes. Don't have to prompt Keshav. So yeah, let's do Narsimharati and then Prasadam prayer and Prasadam. We won't be holding too long. I think sorry to cramp you up there. There's not a lot of space. I feel sorry for you.
You can put the Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, sure.
Ugram Viram Mahavishnu, Jalantam Sarvatobhukam, Narshinam Deshanam Ratram, Mrityu Shri Narasimha, Jai Narasimha, Jai Narasimha, Praladesha, Jaya Padma, Bukha Padma, Ringam. Namaste Narayana.
online people didn't ask you, you have any questions? I completely forgot. Sorry అండి తెలుగులో చెప్పలేకపోయిన ఫ్లో మధ్యలో కట్ అవుద్ది కదా 1 minute translate.
He's asking if there are any questions. Any questions?
They were all in mute now. I think they all went.
They all went.
Yeah, only Sanivas Prabhu.
Krishnaji?
Sanivas Prabhu, all okay na? Okay. Yeah. One last thing, ఏంటంటే ఇది రెగ్యులర్ యాక్టివిటీ చేద్దాం అనుకుంటున్నా అట్లీస్ట్ మంత్ ఒకసారి. ఇంకేమైనా ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్ టాపిక్స్ ఉంటే ఫీడ్బ్యాక్ ఇవ్వండి, మీకు నచ్చిందా లేదంటే సంథింగ్ ఎల్స్ అది చేయాలని ఆలోచిస్తున్నాం. సో చెప్పండి.
Do they all have chanting beads? Do they chant? Everyone here? Do they have beads?
No, but anyone interested to have beads, we have beads. You can take home. If you want to chant, you can chant.
And the important thing about chanting is that quite often we get so involved in our daily activities that we don't think about God. So at least if you spend 10 minutes a day, we spoke about the cleansing of the heart. And if you always do that, you're not going to get that opportunity where you'll be thinking of God during the day. So just give you a chance, at least for 10 minutes in the morning to do one round. At least that's the connection. And then you have to think you've got all these young kids that are here. You know, when you're in India and you've got all of that great, for South India, you have such a beautiful structure of temple worship and deity worship and all of that. There's not really much of that, so the child's going to get activity in daily life, where they can get opportunity. So even if you teach them to do the chanting, that's the recommendation for the day. Taking God's name. It doesn't have to be just a Hare Krishna. Krishna's name, the Vishnu's name. So if you don't give them the taste for it, it's very, very hard for them to think, oh, this is important for me, unless they practice it. So at least if that day, only for one therapy, and always kids learn from example. You're not doing it, they're not going to do it at all. So, and if you're not setting that example for them to do some service, and once you come to the Western world, there's more than enough attraction from the time you open your eyes to go to sleep. And if you don't set that little time aside in the morning to make that connection, the whole day is going to just be caught in the material cycle, and before you know it, you'll be on the other end of your lifespan, and then nothing. And then you have to think about what are you teaching your children? What will they take from our rich Vedic culture that will keep them going? So if you're not actually engaging them, again, giving them that taste for that name, they're not going to be interested. You know, there's too many things to attract them. So yeah, if anyone doesn't have the set of beads, take it and just practice. And sometimes you might not be interested. You're amazed how people keep things like books in their house, and they're not interested because sometimes we've already spent our lifetime worrying so much about material things and getting the family ahead and establishing ourselves in a new country, doing all of that. And then by the time we're at the other end of our life, we haven't actually had that. We've developed too much of a taste for material things. But at least if you've got that presence in your house where you've got books for your kids or some beads for chanting, they might take it up because you set up the foundation for them. And then they have something, you create the environment where they have a chance to think about God. So that's very important to make the home a temple. And engaging your kids, very, very important, because once you lose a generation after generation, you just disappear. Like we've lived all our lives in South Africa, and it's very, very hard to actually see the newer generations at that time, how much they've lost. It's very, very hard to keep it. And that's all we've got. Without that, all we get in the Western world is materialism. We can teach how kids to earn a good living, to get a good lifestyle, to earn well, and do all of those things. But at the end of the day, we're going to be like, you know, this country's got a higher suicide rate for kids, like Japan. And that's because they've got nothing to fill that gap. They want that connection with something that makes them happy. They never find it in this world. And if you don't give them that connection to what we've got, the Vedic literature is the source of all this. If you don't give them that, they've lost it. We come to the West thinking that we could get a lifestyle. And we engage ourselves in that. Yes, we comfortable. But there's also the emptiness. Drinking more or going for more parties, then it's all temporary, like what we do. But if you don't actually give kids the chance and you teach them some structure from them, that's the only gift you've got from what everyone brought from India. And if you don't continue that into your kids, they will in 2 or 3 generations, there'll be nothing that they'll be joining Westerners, drinking alcohol, consuming meat, because they think, well, I've heard so many people from India say things like, oh, the cows here are not cows from India, so we can eat them, things like that. And your mind can play so much tricks, senses can do so much to deviate you. And if you keep on letting all these little bits of culture go, your kids will, and yourself will be poorer than you ever imagined. You could be a billionaire with everything you've got surrounding you, but if you don't actually have what you've come with, you're leaving what is the essence of life, and you're teaching your kids how to become materialists. You lose everything. So you find generally when you come from a place like West India, where you have all this wonderful temple structure program, it's okay because you go to the temple every day and it's in your face, you walk past temples, there's always people drinking. None of that exists here in the Western world. So if you don't form some type of structure, give your kids some taste for spirituality, they are just going to forget everything. So make sure that you make your home a temple and you teach your kids to at least do these types of things. The Hare Krishna movement is good because it's taken the essence of what has come from India. And it's very applicable. So you can live in a society like this, but you can teach them how to apply it. You can do the chanting, you can go to and do chanting of God's names in groups. So keep all those small things alive in your home. Don't forget that. Otherwise, your kids will be useless slaves of the future. So make sure you don't forget that. Most Indian kids are super smart and really intelligent, high level of intellect. But you must not fill it with materials. Make sure you fill them with spiritual things too. Without that, the reason why you are able to take so much in is because you came from the culture that helped you develop your brain with so much of purity that you can concentrate. But if you waste it on just building up material things, it's a wasted mind. Yeah. So make sure you teach it. That's very important. Pass it to the next generation.
That's really well said. You nailed it. That's very well said. That's exactly what they are. You put everything so nicely. It's very well said. That's one reason why we all got together. We are thankful that we established Lord Balaji. And at least that gives a sense of there's something like the temple Lord God. Yeah. So that's yeah, you said that. That's the essence. That's very good. That's it.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks for coming. We have to start Prashad and stay with you for that.